Hello, my art-loving friends. I am Deborah Kay, and I welcome you to Paint with a Passion. Well, all I can say about this piece is, be still my blossoming heart. Today, we are going to paint this stunning heart on a large river rock stone. It's actually very easy, and when you are all finished, you're going to be amazed at just how beautiful the finished rock is going to be. Here is my recipe. You can pause here to gather what you're going to need, or just refer to the list in the description area below this video. So get all your goodies together. Let's make the magic happen as we paint with a passion. All right, so I'm painting on a 7 by 6 inch precast river rock stone. This stone was left over from some masonry work that was done on our family cabin. There's a couple of large divots I filled in with craft glue, and once the craft glue is dry to the touch, I'm going to paint the entire surface in black acrylic paint using a 1-inch bristle brush. Now, some of these little pits might need a second coat, and in some cases, you might need to work the paint into them. A sponge or a small brush will make it easy to fill in the paint. So just be sure to check the surface once it's all dry and fill in those little buggers as needed. And you might find as you go along, you'll see another one and you can just fill it in as you go. You might have noticed a big chunk of dried up mortar on the back of this rock. And I'm not going to bother chiseling it away or doing anything with it because I'm going to set it outside in the garden. And remember, you can use anything you want as your canvas. I do recommend, though, if you're painting on anything porous, that you prime your surface with gesso to protect your painting. Gesso is going to keep the paint from seeping into the material and fading. All right, my art friends, it's time to draw the heart on. Now, we want to leave an inch or so margin down the side of the rock or off to the edge of the canvas, and that's going to leave room for our heart outline design. And if you have any trouble drawing an even heart, you could always fold a piece of paper and draw the half heart like we did as kids and cut it out. It'll make a perfectly even heart and you can trace it. Now I'm using 3 colors for the base of my heart. Starting with the darkest on the outer edge, I'm going to add each color and blend them together. It doesn't need to be perfect. I just want to give the illusion of the center being illuminated. Apply the darkest color with one side of the sponge, and then either flip your sponge or use a second sponge to add the next color. Also, let the first color partially dry just a little bit before you start trying to add and blend in the second color. When you load up your sponges, be careful not to use too much paint. A little goes a long way, and you can always add more. I will often blot my sponge before I start to apply the paint if I think I might have too much paint on the sponge. Now, if you use the sponge for one color and then decide to double dip it into the second color, you're going to end up with a mixed color and no transition. And we already know how I feel about double dipping. So yeah, once again, I'm always telling you, no double dipping, mister. Now, if you find your transition of color is just a mushy mess, let it dry and then start again. And remember, blending takes practice. So if you're just learning this technique, I recommend that you paint the base coats of each of the colors and then use a light amount to go back over and blend in between where the two colors meet up. Let's get our pencils out and draw on the design. I'm going to start out by drawing petals in the shape of an elongated infinity symbol. Now, I just want to make sure that the petals stretch across the transition colors just a little bit for this first row. And try to keep the petals close in length for this first row. Now, I'm sure you've heard me talk about my Lazy Susan before, but I feel like I just have to say it again. It is so super handy, especially when you're working with a 10-pound rock that you're spinning around. After you complete your middle row of petals, or I guess it would be the middle flower, Continue to build petals all the way around. And it doesn't have to be too structured, but I'm going to try to point the petals in a round blooming direction until I reach the edges. And just keep going until your heart is full. Aw, is your heart full? Does your cup runneth over? Mine too. I just love you guys. Now, you might have heard me talk about chalk pencils versus lead pencils, but just in case you haven't, I thought I would explain the reason I like to use the white chalk pencils. And that is because they are so much easier to erase than the lead pencil. Now, you could try to skip drawing on the pattern altogether if you feel confident, but personally, I find it nice to have a guide. It's exactly what I think of the chalk as, just a friendly general guide. A lot of times my brush has a mind of its own and it ends up ignoring the chalk line and it actually paints outside of the lines. Imagine that, painting outside of the lines. Anyways, well, wow. Now look at this. We could almost call this done and not even paint on the design. It already looks so amazing. Using metallic gold paint, I'm going to outline the heart. You can use any metallic that you want. In fact, you don't even have to use metallic. Maybe you don't like metallic. Whatever your heart desires is what you should go with. You know it's going to look amazing when you're done. I would just pick a paint that will stand out against the background. And now, my lovely art friends, it's time. We're going to begin to outline the petals. The fine lining brush I'm using is custom made. I have two of them that I use. One is curved and one is straight. You can watch my video to learn how to create your own. Now, I find that the curved brush works much better for outlining curves and circles, and the straight one works best for, well, you guessed it, straight lines, especially if I'm doing something like block lettering. I like to start from the inner row and then work my way out, or I guess you could say down in this case. This way I don't accidentally rest my hand on any of the wet paint. This design is very much like the pattern we did in the Infinity Butterfly tutorial. And your base colors can be anything you like. You can blend as many or as few colors as you want. For me, I prefer 2 or 3, and often just one dark color and some white really is all that you need. You could even paint on a marble base like the one we did in my marble mandala tutorial. That would look really cool. And as far as your petals, they can be any shape you want as well. The trick is to draw the petals so that some of them go across the transition colors. That's what really makes it look so amazing. And you know, that's the great thing about art. It's yours, and so you get to make all the decisions. One of a kind. Now, as I'm painting the petals, I try to rest the side of my hand to steady my paint stroke. Sometimes I'll use my pinky finger for leverage. And I like to paint a lot like I'm holding a pencil. And I find I have much more control if I don't use an easel. So that's just my preference. Of course, for this rock, I couldn't really use an easel. If you don't have a surface to rest your hand on, you can try resting the side of your hand on the back of your other hand or your other wrist. Once all of the paint for your petal outline is completely dry, it's time to erase all the chalk lines. Now, I recommend a white eraser that doesn't leave any traces or skid marks. Did I just say that? I did. Skid marks. Stop me now. Stop me. So I got a huge pack of these white erasers and they were super cheap. And the one that comes on the pencil, they wear down really fast. And I found that so do the ones that you buy that you put on the end of the pencils. So I decided I'm going to try some of these big blocks, and they last a really long time. So make sure you get all of the chalk lines, and because if you varnish, it's going to be too late if you haven't erased them all. All right, my friends, it's time to fill in the spaces between the petals. I recommend using the fine lining brush, but I always seem to recommend that, don't I? Well, maybe I should just change my name to Super Skinny Brush Painter, or even better, how about just Super Skinny Painter? I wish. All right, here we go. Enjoy some lovely music. Wowzy. Look at how amazing this is looking. Now we're going to add some random little dots to really accent our blossoming heart. I'm using the second largest of my small metal dotting tools. And I'm adding dots to the top of the center petals first. So what I do is I dip my tool into the paint and then I place my first dot. And then without reloading the paint, I do what we call walking the dots. And in a straight line, I just continue to dot, 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 dot toward the center of the flower. Continue that on each of the top petals. And make sure that you try to start at just about the same distance from the center on each of the petals. Next, I'm going to add some random dots in the larger black areas of the blossom. And this time I'm going to reload with paint before I apply each dot so that they are all the same size. Now, I don't want to add too many, just enough to add some wow. And these dots, they're going to tie into the outline decoration that we're going to be adding next. All right, my lovely art friends, it's time to get that chalk pencil back out. Now we're going to draw on our outer edge design. I'm going to continue this pattern all the way around. And then I'm going to add a wavy line underneath it to sort of tie it all together. And I recommend that you measure the distance all the way around the heart, not just the heart as a whole, but I mean go up and go around each of the curves and down into the center and back around to find out just how many, like how big or long should each of your design pieces be so that you don't end up with one funky sized little chunk. Now you can use any design you want. You can do what I'm doing, or feel free to make up whatever you'd like. Maybe you'd like some dots, maybe you'd like some stripes, whatever you want, anything goes. Using my fine lining brush, now I'm going to paint over the chalk design. And I'm going to use the same color that I used to do the basic outline and the dots on top of the heart. It's really going to pull it all together and look so beautiful. Okay, so one last chance to erase all of those chalk lines and look everything over. Make sure that there's not any areas on the sides that need to be filled in with black. And just make sure that everything is ready for the varnish. All right, now to make it all pop, I'm going to use an interior clear coat just to set all of the paint. I recommend that you wait at least 24 hours before applying a varnish, especially to anything that has dots. The dots take longer to set, and the varnish can sometimes ruin your painting if you apply it too soon. I will be using an exterior varnish for my final coat because I want to put this outside on my patio. And if you want to see how I've done that in the past, you can watch my Infinity Butterfly tutorial. And I have the brand and the type of exterior varnish that I'm using in my recipe and in the description area below. This is absolutely stunning. How gorgeous is this? All I can say is, be still, my blossoming heart. Thank you so much for joining me today to Paint with a Passion. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to painting again together real soon. Let me know what you think, and also let me know what you'd like to see in future tutorials. Please remember to subscribe and hit that notification button so you know as soon as I have a new video out. I wish you peace, love, and happiness now and always.